All right, listeners, ready for some exciting news?
I'm ready.
Okay, so get this. The Punjab Public Service Commission just announced a bunch
Yeah.
of new assistant director positions.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and we're talking 37 positions open in the Punjab Employees Social Security Institution.
That's incredible.
I know, right? And it gets even better.
Okay, I'm listening.
It's a 5-year contract with a BS-17 pay scale.
Wow, that's a pretty sweet deal.
It is, and here's the best part.
What's that?
It's open to everyone across Punjab.
Really?
Yeah, no matter your gender or where you live, you can apply.
That's fantastic. It's great to see such an inclusive opportunity.
Exactly.
Well,
So are you thinking about applying?
Well, I'd love to, but first I need to know if I even qualify.
Right, that's the first step.
So what are the eligibility requirements?
Let's break it down. You definitely need a master's degree.
Okay, and what fields are they looking for?
Well, they've got a pretty diverse list. Public administration, business administration, economics, finance.
Sounds pretty standard so far.
Yeah, but here's where it gets interesting. They're also looking for folks with backgrounds in sociology and even law.
Oh, wow. That's unexpected. It seems like they're really looking for a well-rounded group of people.
Yeah, and it sounds like they're prioritizing a broad skill set over like super specific niche expertise.
I agree. It's refreshing to see.
So what do you think? What if someone has a master's degree, but it's not on that list? Like what if it's in a related field? Should they apply anyway?
You know, I think it's always worth a shot. The worst can happen is they say no.
Exactly.
But you never know. Your experience might be exactly what they're looking for.
Exactly. So if you're on the fence, just go for it.
Agreed. Now, what about age limits?
Good question. So for men, it's 21 to 35 years old.
Okay, and for women?
21 to 38.
Perfect. And of course, transgender individuals are welcome to apply as well, right?
Absolutely. And it's important to mention there are quotas for women, minorities, and people with disabilities.
Oh, that's great to hear. It sounds like they're committed to building a diverse workforce.
Yeah, they're really trying to make sure it reflects the diversity of Punjab.
I love that. Okay, so let's say you've checked all the boxes, submitted your application. Now it's time to talk about the big hurdle, the exam. What can we expect?
Okay, so the exam is 90 minutes long, 100 marks, and it's all multiple choice.
Multiple choice, huh? Sounds easy enough.
Oh, but don't let that fool you. It covers a ton of material.
Like what? Give me the rundown.
Okay, buckle up. We've got general knowledge Pakistan studies,
Okay.
current affairs, Islamic studies, or general knowledge for non-Muslim candidates.
Got it.
Geography, basic math, English, Urdu.
Wow, the list goes on.
It does. Everyday science and even basic computer studies.
They really want to make sure these assistant directors are well-rounded.
Right. It's not just about knowing one specific thing. It's about having a broad understanding of a lot of different areas.
It's a real test of your overall knowledge.
Exactly. So how do we even begin to prepare for all of that?
Well, before we get into the study plan,
Yeah.
I think it's helpful to look at past exams and see what topics come up the most.
Ooh, insider tips. I like it.
Based on my research, general knowledge Pakistan studies, and current affairs, those are always big chunks of the exam.
Okay, so those are the heavy hitters.
Yeah, if you're pressed for time, I'd say focus on those first.
But don't ignore the other subjects. Completely right.
Definitely. Every point matters, especially in a competitive exam like this.
Yes, yeah. So it's all about balance, focusing on the big three, but still having a good grasp of everything else.
Exactly.
Now, luckily for us, our source material actually gives us a pretty detailed study plan.
Oh, perfect.
It tells us what to study, how long to study it, even suggests some materials we can use.
Awesome. We should definitely go through that.
We will. But before we dive into textbooks and practice papers, I think it's worth talking about some general study strategies.
You mean like beyond just reading the material?
Yeah, things that can help us make the most of our study time.
I'm all ears. I wish I'd known some of these things when I was studying for exams.
Well, maybe we can save our listeners some trouble then.
I hope so.
Let's
do it.
Okay, so first things first, don't limit yourself to just textbooks.
Yeah, there are so many other resources out there.
Exactly. We're
Yeah.
talking online study guides, YouTube channels, even podcasts like this one.
Right. It's all about finding what works best for you.
Exactly. And speaking of finding what works best for you, let's talk about time management.
Ah, yes. The eternal struggle.
Right? It's not just about studying hard, it's about studying smart.
So true. You need to figure out what times of day you're most productive.
Exactly.
Right.
Are you a morning person or a night owl? Do you study best in short bursts or long stretches?
Once you know your own learning style, you can create a schedule that actually works for you.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Okay, next tip. Practice, practice, practice.
This is probably the most important one.
It is. Seriously, you can never do too many practice papers and past exam papers.
They're your best friends when it comes to exam prep.
They really are. It helps you get familiar with the types of questions they ask, the format of the exam, everything.
Plus, it helps you get used to the time pressure.
Exactly. Okay, and speaking of getting used to the pressure, we need to talk about mock tests.
Oh, yes. Those are essential.
Treat them like the real deal. Find a quiet place, set a timer, no distractions.
It's the best way to simulate the real exam experience.
And it helps you figure out where you need more practice.
For sure. Okay, so we've got our resources, our study plan, our practice routine.
Anything else?
One more thing, and it might sound cheesy, but believe in yourself.
Love it. Confidence is key.
It really is.
So let's dive into the specifics of this study plan.
Yes, let's get down to business.
Our source has this amazing color-coded table breaking down each subject, recommended study materials, and how much time we should spend on each one.
Okay, I'm ready to take notes.
Remember, this is just a guideline, though.
Right,
The best study plan is always the one that's tailored to you.
totally. So what's first on the list?
First up, general knowledge. Our source suggests hitting the textbooks, reference books, newspapers, even magazines.
Sounds like a deep dive into the world of information.
It is, the key here is to be a sponge. Absorb as much as you can. And don't just cram it all in right before the exam.
Right. Consistency is key.
Yeah, make it a habit to read those newspapers, take notes on current events, revise what you've learned, even if it's just for like an hour each day.
Exactly.
Right,
Think of it like working out. You gotta exercise your knowledge muscles regularly.
Love that analogy. Okay, next on the list is Pakistan studies.
Ah, yes, a classic.
It looks like the approach is pretty similar. Textbooks, reference books, lots of practice with past papers.
Yeah, but here's the thing with Pakistan studies.
What's that?
Don't just memorize dates and names.
Right.
You really need to understand the why behind the events.
Like the context, the cause and effect.
Exactly. Once you get the big picture, those trickier application-based questions become way easier.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Moving on to current affairs.
Now, this one can be tough.
It can be. How do you even stay on top of everything that's happening?
Well, for me, the key is finding a good note-taking system.
Interesting.
Yeah, whether it's digital flashcards, mind maps, even just good old-fashioned bullet points.
Right.
It's all about experimenting and finding what helps you remember the information.
So true. What works for one person might not work for another.
Exactly. All right, next up we have Islamic studies or general knowledge for our non-Muslim listeners.
Looks like textbooks and reference books are the main resources here.
Yeah, and I think the key with these subjects is to approach them with respect and an open mind.
Absolutely.
Focus on understanding the core concepts and key events, and don't be afraid to ask questions.
Right. It's all about learning with curiosity and empathy.
Exactly. Okay, moving on to geography.
Textbooks, maps, and atlases. That's what they recommend.
Yeah, and don't just passively read about like mountain ranges or river systems.
Okay.
Actually look at them on a map. Trace their paths. Imagine yourself standing there.
Oh, I like that.
It can really help you remember the information better.
Engaging your senses.
Exactly. It's like turning studying into an adventure.
All right, so up next, basic mathematics. Maybe not everyone's favorite subject.
But don't let that word basic fool you.
Right.
You got to be comfortable with the fundamentals, problem solving, and yes, memorizing those formulas.
There's no escaping those formulas.
Nope. But here's a tip that really helped me.
Okay, I'm listening.
Find someone to explain the concepts to you.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, teaching someone else is one of the best ways to solidify your own understanding.
True, that go. English and Urdu.
Two essential languages.
Absolutely. Our source recommends grammar books, vocabulary builders, and of course, practice papers.
Yep. And one of the best ways to improve your language skills is immersion.
Immersion.
Yeah, surround yourself with the language. Read English and Urdu newspapers, books, even poetry.
The more you expose yourself to it, the better.
Exactly. It becomes more natural that way.
Great advice. Okay, last but not least, basic computer studies.
In today's world, this is crucial.
It is. Textbooks and online resources seem to be the go-to here.
Yeah, focus on understanding the core concepts, key terms, basic operations.
And don't be afraid to get hands-on right.
Absolutely. Play around with different software, explore online tutorials. Learning by doing is always more effective.
Totally. Okay, before we wrap up the study plan, I want to highlight something our source calls additional tips.
Oh, yeah, these are good.
These are like the little nuggets of wisdom that can really make a difference.
I agree. They're often overlooked, but they're so important.
Okay, so first up, time management.
Ah, the cornerstone of successful studying,
It's all about creating a schedule that works for you and actually sticking to it.
which can be the hardest part.
It can be. My advice is to be really honest with yourself about your productivity patterns.
Like, when are you most alert and focused? When are you most likely to procrastinate?
Exactly. Once you know that you can build a schedule that plays to your strengths.
So self-awareness is key.
Absolutely.
Okay, next tip. Practice, practice, practice.
I think we've drilled that one in.
Yeah, but it's worth repeating. Those practice papers and past exam papers are your secret weapon. They really are. The more you do, the more comfortable you'll become with the exam format, the types of questions, the level of difficulty.
And the less anxious you'll feel on the actual exam day.
Exactly. It's all about building that mental stamina.
Speaking of which, the next tip is all about mock tests.
Mock tests are like dress rehearsals for the real thing.
Exactly. Find a quiet space, set a timer, no distractions, treat it like the actual exam.
It's the best way to see how you perform under pressure.
And to identify any areas where you need more practice.
For sure. Okay, last tip. Stay calm and confident. Easier said than done, right?
Maybe, but it's so important.
It is. Nerves can really mess you up, even if you're well prepared.
So how do we stay zen when the pressure's on?
Well, first of all, make sure you're taking care of yourself.
Like getting enough sleep, eating healthy foods.
Exactly. Physical and mental well-being are crucial.
So true. And remember, the more confident you are in your preparation, the less anxious you'll feel on exam day.
Couldn't agree more.
Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about getting a job.
Right. It's about so much more.
It's about making a real difference.
Exactly. The Punjab Employees Social Security Institution, they're doing some really important work.
They are. It's all about protecting and supporting workers, making sure they have what they need, creating a fairer society.
Yeah. It's a chance to be part of something bigger than yourself.
To have a positive impact on people's lives.
And that's something worth striving for.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So as you're preparing for this exam, keep that in mind.
Let that be your motivation.
Remember why you're doing this.
This deep dive, it's just the starting point.
We've given you the tools, the insights, the inspiration.
Now it's up to you to take action.
Go out there, study hard, ace that exam, and show them what you're made of.
We're cheering you on every step of the way.
And remember, even after the exam, the learning doesn't stop.
Right. This is just the beginning of your journey.
Keep learning, keep growing, keep pushing yourself to make a positive impact.
That's what it's all about.
All right, listeners, that's all the time we have for today.
It's been a pleasure diving into this with you.
As always, thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.
Until next time, happy studying and best of luck.
We believe in you.